Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As we get closer and closer to the redemption of the children of Israel, we're going to have to deal with it's a part of the blessing and part of the curse of the regathering of the children of Israel. This is a very wonderful thing in the regathering of the children of Israel, but we have to understand that it is also going to push all of the various doctrines together, and it's going to have to work out in that wilderness. There's a reason why Yahweh has set up this situation. The children of Israel didn't go from Egypt and went directly into the land. They went into the wilderness first so that he can purge out the rebels, so that he can purge out all these various doctrines, so that he can put things on one accord, and everybody will have their chance to stand up and proclaim whatever it is they believe to be true. When it comes down to it, when Yahweh sets up a governmental system, you have to be able to let go. We do the best that we can with what we have, but let me tell you something. If Yahweh raises up King David and King David said this is the way we're going to do it, then that's the way we're going to do it. Ain't no discussions about it. Ain't no voting. We're not going to vote about whether or not this is the way we're going to do it. When Yahweh sets up that kingdom, so what we have to do is we do the best that we can in what we have, but don't get stuck in positions to the point where you can't change when Yahweh needs you to change. We are creatures of habit, and sometimes that works against us. Matter of fact, the adversary uses it against us. He knows that we are creatures of habit, so he wants to get to you first before the truth gets to you, so he can set forth all kind of habits inside your heart, mind, and spirit, so that when you hear this word, now you have a problem with this and you have a problem with that, because he has already allowed certain habits to form within inside you. This, my teacher used to say, one day Yahweh may need you to be a hammer. The next day he might need you to be a screwdriver. Do you have what it takes inside of you to be able to change when he needs you to be something different? That's the question. Or are you stuck in that last thing? Well, this is what I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to be forever. And what happened when Yahweh needs you to be something else? Then you are not a fruitful servant to him. And things that don't profit Yahweh, he has a tendency to get rid of. So let us keep that in mind. Brother, would you read the oracles that we may entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence.
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you up on earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Now it is written that Moshe was the meekest man that ever lived. When we examine this, we find that Moshe was not weak, as some think meek means. But instead, he accepted Yahweh's will for his life. There are many that have been called to work in the vineyard, but instead of playing the part that we were called to play, they desire another's role. This sows discord and causes dissension amongst the ranks. All who are called to fight in Yahweh's holy army must be able to withstand the attacks of the adversary and stand in the place wherewith we were called. Let's begin today's sermon in Isaiah chapter 14. And today's sermon is entitled, Purging Out the Rebels. See, we have entered into a time where it has become a glorious thing to be a teacher of the word. And there are many that are teaching that are not called to do so, but they have called themselves to do so. Yahweh is going to cause situations whereby he lets it be known who it is he is called to do what. See, we have to be able, when you talk about how meek Moshe was, we have to consider the changes that Yahweh brought forth in his life. I mean, some would think after you run out of Egypt being a fugitive for 40 years that, hey, that's what you're going to be. Then he turns around and tells him to go back into the place where he just left from 40 years ago. And we get used to things in periods of months. How accustomed do you think he was to being in that solitude, that place for 40 years? How accustomed you thought, you think he got with that? Did Yahweh care? No. Now it's time for you to go back. I don't really care how accustomed you've gotten to being here in the safety of this man and his daughters and he the priest, blah, blah, blah. I brought you out here for a reason, for you to get trained. Now you've gotten trained, now go back. You think Yahweh is going to waste 40 years of training because of how you think, feel, and believe? Isaiah chapter 14 and verses 1 through 26.
For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
Now when these strangers come, they can't bring their own doctrine. And you have to make sure of it. Go ahead.
And the people shall take them, and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
Right. And we know that the people that are in Israel calling themselves the Jews, they don't have anybody for this prophecy to fit. Who you going to take captives? Understand, the things that are written in the Torah says, I will send you into Egypt again via ships. So they can't claim that they're going to take the Egyptians. This was said after that. So who you going to take captives? Right. You don't have nobody to take captives because you wasn't never no captive. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and from the hard bondage wherein you was made to serve.
Made to serve. Not asked to serve. Not set yourself to serve. You were made to serve. Go ahead.
That you shall take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how has the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest, and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir tree rejoice at you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you are laid down, no fellers come up against us.
Right, so now this whole thing is changing direction. Now we're dealing with who was in control of all of those wicked nations. Go ahead.
Verse 9. Hell from beneath is moved for you to meet you at your coming. It stirreth up the dead for you, even all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto you, are you also become weak as we? Are you become like unto us?
Right, because for the adversary, the devil, to be punished, he must first be changed from an angel to a man. That takes time, and that's what why the confusion is happening as far as why don't Yahweh just kick him out and blah blah blah, and that's why so many people believe Satan has already gotten kicked out of heaven and he can't go back. They don't understand the covenant made with sons. It takes time to deal with that. Go ahead.
Verse 11. Your pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of your vials. The worm is spread under you, and the worms cover you. How art you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art you cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations?
Right, which did weaken the nations. Go ahead.
For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim.
Right. Lucifer was given a job. He didn't like that job. He didn't want to stand in the place where Yahweh gave him. So he wants his, it says, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend to into heaven. I will exalt my throne. Your throne is your place of control. This is the place where you have authority. His authority ain't in heaven. But that's where he wanted to be. See, he doesn't like the job that Yahweh gave him. He want another one. Go ahead.
I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north.
Right, and that's why everybody else go to church on Sunday morning saying they going to heaven, because their daddy said he going to heaven too. Go ahead.
Verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
I will be like the Most High. So then now we have a counterfeit Yahweh on the scene. People deal with him all the time. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank God. Oh, praise his name. Right. Here go your counterfeit God right here. And they don't realize that they worshiping the counterfeit God. They think they worshiping the real one. They think you worshiping the counterfeit. Go ahead.
Yet you shall be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
And then worse than somebody pulling out an orange 5 and think something wrong with your money. You got monopoly money. Go ahead.
Verse 16. They that see you shall narrowly look upon you and consider you, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms?
Is this the man that did this? Go ahead.
That made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house.
Right, everyone in his own house, in his own land. Every nation was given a land. There is no peace like being in your own house. Everybody knows that. And you know it when your stomach get to bubbling, you trying your best to make it to your house. Ain't nothing like sitting on your throne, taking care of your business at your house. It's something altogether different when you got to stop and sit on somebody else's throne. This is peace being in yours. And every man, every country, every family has their own. You're not going to have pure peace being in somebody else's. We're in somebody else's land. This ain't our land. And we act like we're supposed to have pure peace here. And you have to consider something. It don't even belong to the people who ruling. They stole it from somebody else. They got here, killed all the people who was here before, put down the flag, said this is ours. Now, in their mind, they say, hey man, we stole this fair and square. Y'all don't get to have peace, and it go steal your own. If you steal something from a thief, don't he still get mad? Man, I work hard to steal this. You can't steal this after I done stole this. It's mine now. Right. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 19. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. You shall not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and slain your people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned.
Remember what was said at Yeshua's baptism as he was tried by the adversary. He said, all these things are given unto me, and I give it to whom I will. Now, how he had that authority? He ain't still that authority. That authority was given to him. When he showed up in Job each time to make an appearance, they said, where you been? He said, back and forth to the earth. They ain't say, man, you ain't got no business being here. He's an angel, he's a son. He had to make an appearance just like everybody else. Go ahead.
Verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities.
Prepare slaughter for his children. Now, Yeshua said, the Pharisees, he said, you are of your father the devil, and the works of your father you will do. Lucifer got children. Right. Go ahead.
For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, and nephew, saith Yahweh. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith Yahweh of hosts.
All right, stop. Let's see. No, go ahead. Go to 26.
Yahweh of hosts hath sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread them under foot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations.
Upon all the nations. Let's go to Matthew chapter 21. Matthew chapter 21, and let's read verses 28 through 32.
Verse 28. But what think you? A certain man had 2 sons. And he came to the first and said, son, go work today in my vineyard.
Right. We find that there's a garden. Yahweh sets up this paradise for man. And then you have one son who is supposed to go and govern that garden. So then you have to ask yourself, where did this dissension come from that gave that serpent this great idea to convince them to eat from this tree? So you had a son who was supposed to make sure of what was happening in that garden. Go ahead.
He answered and said, I will not. But afterward he repented and went.
Now, when you get down to Yahshua, when it came to the point of having to give his life to go and the spirit enter into a fleshly man and then suffer for the children of Israel, you have to read those things and you find out he didn't want to do that. He kept praying, asking, is there any other way? And after several attempts at trying to change the outcome, he realized that Yahweh said there's no other way. See, in the beginning it says, let us make man. So when it comes down to it, the spirit of Israel had to enter into that fleshly body of Yahshua and suffer for the creation that he helped create. But Yahweh said there's no other way. You got to deal with this. So he had to take on. So when you get down to these things, when it says he that overcomes, you have to understand. He had to overcome. So we're not just going to waltz and slide through. There's some overcoming that we're going to have to go through to get there. Go ahead.
Verse 30. And he came to the second son and said likewise. And he answered and said, I go, sir, and went not.
Right. Lucifer went. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. He said, I go. But he went not. So he purposely going to do the job, but he going to do it wrong. Go ahead.
Whether of them two did the will of his father? They say unto him, the first. Yahshua saith unto them, Verily I say unto you, that the publicans and the harlots go into the kingdom of Elohim before you.
Consider this. The publicans and the harlots, these are the worst people. But they go into the kingdom before you. Why? Because they repent. How they get in the kingdom? They worse people than you. How they get in? Because when they realize they off his two left shoes, they take their shoes off and switch them around. We gonna walk in pride with them two left shoes and just walk right on down the street. Just a crooked. And everybody show you, hey man, your shoes on the wrong foot. No, they not. You just looking at them wrong. But you don't see yourself wiggling from side. But you don't, your shoes not on the right foot, man. I've been wearing them like this all that time. They ain't called me no problem. I'm fine. All right. Isaiah chapter 10. That's another one of those things of being creatures of habit. See? Being creatures of habit, we allow habits to form that are not good. And if it does not destroy us, then we think it's okay. Start raising your kids in this word and see what happens when you run into the rest of your family. He said, no, my kid's not going to deal with this Christmas. Why, you dealt with Christmas and you all right. You kept Easter. You went to the Easter egg hunts and you all right. Right. Easter didn't kill you. Isaiah chapter 10 and start at verse 1.
Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And what will you do in the day of visitation, and in the desolation which shall come from far?
Right, the day of visitation. Nobody knows when the day has their name on the calendar. There's a visitation. That's why it says keep your conversation, which is the things you do, honest among the Gentiles. That upon the day of visitation, they will glorify your Father which art in heaven. They're not glorifying your Father which art in heaven now. They got to get a visit first. That's why you have to walk how you're supposed to walk now. When they get visited, then they think, hey man, you remember that dude that worked in the warehouse, that Hebrew dude? I think we need to change our life, bro. That's when that thought comes. Not now. So you're watching them, but they keep doing what they're doing. They're supposed to keep doing what they're doing now. They ain't gotten their visitation yet. Go ahead.
To whom will you flee for help? And where will you leave your glory? Without me they shall bow down under the prisoners, and they shall fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation.
Now, why is this such an important verse? You have to understand something. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger. The rod is used for chastisement. Okay? So, you have all of the people, all the folks who say, oh, the Gentiles ain't going to make it into the kingdom. The Gentiles this, the Gentiles that. The Gentiles became the rod of Yahweh's anger. That's the belt that he used to whoop you. Now, you can use all your energy being mad at the belt, or you can be mad at yourself for doing whatever you did to make your daddy pull the belt out. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand, the staff is their power, in their hand is mine indignation. Yahweh's the one that's angry. He removes the hedge and let these people do to you what's in their heart. Now you turn around and being mad at them people not your problem. Now you can go around here and be mad at white folk all you want to. Everywhere you go, see some white folk, look at them. Just look at it, just whiteness, and just can't stand it. Right? What good they gonna do you? Nobody would have ever been able to do anything to you had you done what you were supposed to do according to what's written in this book. Now you can turn around and be mad at everybody you want to be mad at. It ain't gonna fix your situation. When your car break down, do you just take it to the car wash? Wait a minute, man, the car not working. Yeah, but I want to wash it. I want to make it real clean. The car don't work. It need to go to a repair shop. Yeah, I know it's broke on the inside, but I want to clean the outside real good. How's that going to help you? That makes no sense. When your leg hurt, do you go to an eye doctor? And he gonna look at you stupid when you get there. What's wrong with you? My leg hurt. No, I'm an optometrist. I do. Can you see? Yeah, I can see, but my leg hurt, doc. What can you do about it? Well, you can see, but you must not be able to think, because I keep telling you, I'm an eye doctor. I don't work on legs. But doc, what you gonna do about the leg? So they don't lack understanding. Right. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 6. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge.
A hypocritical nation. Walk around with fringes, talking about the law, in the middle of breaking the law. Hypocritical nation. Go ahead.
And against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil, and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets.
Right. You need to remember this, so when you run into Bruce Leroy and all his friends who got all these problems against Gentiles, you read this to Bruce Leroy. You need to write this down. Isaiah 10, verse 6, verse 5 through 6. So you can read that to Bruce Leroy when he try to tell you how upset and how the Gentiles ain't never going to get into the kingdom and all of these things, and see what Bruce Leroy got to say. See what he got to say. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Howbeit he meaneth not so, neither does his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. For he saith, Are not my princes altogether kings? Is not Calno as Carmish? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus? As my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Wherefore it shall come to pass, that when the Adonai has performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I'll punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, and the glory of his high looks.
Right. Now, this is the next part you have to read to Bruce Leroy and his band of Kung Fu Hebrew bandits. Look here. Yahweh is the one who's going to punish. Yahweh turns around and let somebody punish you for your ill doings. Then he turn around and punish the people who he used to punish you. That job don't belong to you. That's not your job. Go ahead.
For he saith, verse 13, for he saith, by the strength of my hand have I done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent.
Right. So Yahweh gonna get him and all his arrogance that he has done all of those things to you, but that's after he finished letting them punish you for your slick doings. Go ahead.
And I have removed the bounds of the people, and have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man.
Right. Why do you think when we get ready to leave places, Yahweh turn around and make those people have favor on us? Yahweh give us back everything that they took. Go ahead.
And my hand has found as a nest the riches of the people, and as one gathereth eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth, and there was none that moved the wing, or opened the mouth, or peeped. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify himself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself, as it were no wood. Therefore shall the Adonai of hosts, send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like the burning of a fire. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars in one day, and shall consume the glory of his forest, and of his fruitful field, both soul and body, and they shall be as when a standard bearer fainteth. And the rest of the trees of his forest shall be few, that a child may write them. And it shall come to pass in that day, that the remnant of Israel, and such as escaped of the house of Jacob, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth.
Right. Yahweh does the same things over and over. He had already told us in the beginning and given us the law what was going to happen. If you don't serve me in truth and in spirit, then I'm going to make you serve strange gods in your enemy's land. How many times we had to go through the same thing for us to figure out, what's going to happen? Go ahead.
Verse 21, Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 21. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty Elohim.
The remnant. See, Yahweh is always dealing with a remnant. And we all the time want to judge ourselves by how many of the numbers that we can get to follow with us. Yahweh has always dealt with a remnant. Go ahead.
For though your people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return.
Mm-hmm.
The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness.
Right. It is written, he's going to cut off 2/3 of Israel. In the purification of Israel, he's got to cut those numbers down. Go ahead.
For the Adonai Elohim of hosts shall make a consumption, even determined in the midst of all the land. Therefore thus said the Adonai Elohim of hosts, O my people that dwelleth in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite you with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against you, after the manner of Egypt. For yet a very little while, and the indignation shall cease, and mine anger in their destruction.
All right, and mine anger in their destruction. Go ahead.
And Yahweh of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift it up after the manner of Egypt. And it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off your shoulder, and his yoke from off your neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing.
Right. Yahweh is the one that's going to take care of this. Jump to 11 and verse 1.
And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Yessi, and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
Right. Now, you have a lot of these old covenant brothers who they do not believe in Christ whatsoever. They don't believe in anything of the New Testament. They'll have they say all manner of things against the New Testament. But what they quote a lot of times is Isaiah constantly, where He says, and their favorite one is, what's that one? There is none else beside me. There's no other God beside me. I will not give my glory to another. And what you should do is go and read out of the same book that they're reading out of. Then you go back and ask them to explain Genesis in the beginning, where it says, "Let us make man." So who's us then? Right, you're gonna see an old covenant brother. He gonna have a new problem. They can't answer that. All they like to do is throw a whole bunch of scriptures and let you run all around trying to chase the scriptures that they throwing up against the wall. No, you want to quote Isaiah? Well, explain who is this. So what they want to do is say, well, these are things to come. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 2. And the Spirit of Yahweh shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of Yahweh, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together. And the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the sucking child shall play on the hole, and the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahweh, as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious.
Right. The Gentiles shall seek to this, and this shall be a root of Jesse. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Adonai shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left, from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Yehudah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehudah, and Yehudah shall not vex Ephraim.
Right, because they ended up being a divided kingdom. That's why he has to go and make these statements. This is part of making those two sticks one in his hand, that they will not be two divided kingdoms. Go ahead.
Verse 14. But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them.
Right. That's all the people fighting over the land, talking about it there. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. Yahweh said the children of Israel are going to go and lay their hands on both of them. Go ahead.
And Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite in it the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod. And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
Right. You find that Yahweh is saying that he's going to do the same things over and over. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20. Ezekiel chapter 20, and let's read verses 1 through 44.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the 7th year, in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of Yahweh, and sat before me. Then came the word of Yahweh unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto the elders of Israel, and say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Elohim, Are you come to inquire of me? As I live, saith the Adonai Elohim, I will not be inquired of by you. Will you judge them, son of man? Will you judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers.
Right. Are you strong enough to do that? Are you trying to be liked by everybody? See, if you're trying to be liked by everybody, you're not going to be able to do this job. Because when you please that man over there on the left, you're going to upset that sister over there on the right. When you please that sister in the back, you're going to upset this brother in the front. So if you all about man pleasing, you're gonna have a hard time with Israel. Because you're going to notice one thing about man. What man likes and what man accepts constantly changes. So what you do to please man on Monday, get what? It don't please man on Wednesday. But I thought you liked this. No, I like that Monday. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Elohim, In the day when I chose Israel, and lifted up mine hand unto the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known unto them in the land of Egypt, when I lifted up my hand unto them, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, in the day that I lifted up mine hand unto them, to bring them forth of the land of Egypt into a land that I espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Then said I unto them, Cast away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim.
Right. See? Yahweh is see, what man doesn't understand is there's a process. Everybody think they're ready for everything. But there's a process. Go ahead.
Verse 8. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto my voice.
Right. They couldn't turn away the idols of their eyes. They had gotten used to the things in Egypt. Go ahead.
Verse 8. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abomination of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of Egypt. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them, to accomplish mine anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen, among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness. And I gave them my statutes, and showed them my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths, to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Yahweh that sanctify them.
That's why when you get into the Apocrypha, you find the Euro-Gentiles coming in, and the first thing they want to do is to keep the children of Israel from keeping the Sabbath. Yahweh said it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. The first thing the Euro-Gentiles want to do, look here, stop, you got to let that Sabbath go. Why do you think all these churches shut up on Sunday? They get ready to get together tomorrow. The same thing is happening now. There was the Euro-Gentiles that came in Jerusalem and outlawed the Sabbath, and they did the same thing. When our people go to them seminary schools, you think they don't learn that the Sabbath is Saturday? They know. But then them people over the organization, but Sunday is the day, but this is the Sabbath. Yeah, I know, but Sunday is the day. Wait a minute now. So you know that the Sabbath is Saturday. But this is your day of worship, and they even got them a little, some little scriptures or whatever that they use to switch that, to back that lie. They know that this is not. Hey, they call it Good Friday, man. How hard is that? He had to come off the cross because it was beginning to be the Sabbath. Now, you got some of them, they don't know which version of the law to tell. The calendar been changed so many times, you can't tell. Bro, what day come after Friday? I'm sorry, you ain't have to go to college to figure that out. What day come after Friday? Well, there it is. He had to come down because it was beginning to be the Sabbath. How difficult is that? But these people with PhDs that tell you, well, you can't figure that out. Right. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 13. But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They walked not in my statutes, and they despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness, to consume them. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen, in whose sight I brought them out. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Because they despised my judgments, and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols.
Because they despised my judgments. They didn't like what Yahweh had decreed for certain things. See? This is that self-will part of, I don't like this in your law. I don't like that in your law. I don't like this. Yahweh calls you to do something. You say, well, you know what? I don't like that. Well, then, hey, move next. Come stand right there. I need you to stand right there. Yahweh not finna play with us. He says, I have sent an angel. Beware of him. I have sent an angel to lead you. But beware of him, for he will not pardon your transgression. That angel's job is to lead you from point A to point B. Everything they get in his way, he gonna slay and cast it to the wayside. That angel is not gonna receive a failing report because you decided you didn't like this place where he placed you. Because you didn't like, understand, children of Israel want to go from Egypt to paradise. It never occurred to us, you're not ready for paradise. See, it's hard to take a captive mindset and put that captive mindset and say, all right, now you in charge of your own destiny. You in charge of your own land. See, it's really easy for us to sit here and argue, oh, the government got this set up. Oh, the government doing that. It's something altogether different when you're the government. And whenever everything need to be set up, you got to set it up. So ain't no blaming this person or that group. No, you got to set it up. That's a different mindset. And you don't go from captivity and just jump into that mindset. And Yahweh is trying to show the children of Israel there is a process to get to that. That's what we're going through. And some of us get weary along the way. That we don't just leave a captive mindset and all of a sudden we walking, like we're supposed to walk. Hey. There's a process involved in that. And you don't skip the process. Nobody skips the process. You skip the process, I can show you a weak individual. Look at those people and they family own the company and they just get made a supervisor. They don't understand half of the stuff that's going on in that company. But you look at the brother who worked his way up. He understands everything in there. Now, how that person, the little son supervisor, can operate things as long as there's not a problem. First sign of problem and he's flustered. Why? Because he didn't work his way through the ranks. He don't understand each part of that process. You skip the process and it's going to show the first time trouble comes your way. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 17. Nevertheless, mine eye spared them from destroying them. Neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness. But I said unto the children in the wilderness, walk you not in the statutes of your fathers, neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols.
That's what Yahweh asking you now. Walk you not in the ways of your fathers. Your mama and your daddy getting ready to keep Christmas. What the problem is? Walk you not in the idols of your mothers and fathers. He asking you the same thing. Are you strong enough to do it? Or you gonna go to the, I'm gonna go to the Christmas breakfast, but I'm not gonna eat no ham. All right. I went to the Easter egg hunt, but I ain't get no eggs. Go ahead.
I am Yahweh your Elohim. Walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. And hallow my Shabbats, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that you may know that I am Yahweh your Elohim.
Your mama ain't gonna keep the Sabbath. Yahweh said, don't worship the gods, the idols of your mother and father. Your mother and your father worshiping the sun god on Sunday. Go ahead.
Notwithstanding, the children rebelled against me. They walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. They polluted my Sabbaths. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them, to accomplish mine anger against them in the wilderness.
Right. Well, people try to tell you they don't want to accept the holiness of the Sabbath, not understanding there are certain things that you have to take into consideration. This Sabbath has absolutely nothing to do with man. This is all Yahweh. This has nothing to do with any particular family. Israel ain't set up when he institutes the Sabbath. When he instituted his rest, this was something that he gave to Israel after some time. He had already set it forth as his Sabbath when he rested. This is about Yahweh. This has nothing to do. This is even before Israel. So when people try to tell you, oh, well, the Sabbath has changed, what changed about Yahweh? Now all of a sudden man gets here and now man gets to ordain change. Who put that power in your hand? Go ahead.
Verse 22. Nevertheless, I withdrew mine hand and wrought for my name's sake, and it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, even whose sight I brought them forth. I lifted up mine hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen, and disperse them throughout the countries. Because they had not executed my judgments, but had despised my statutes, and had polluted my Sabbats, and their eyes were after their fathers' idols. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, and judgments whereby they should not live.
When you're talking about keeping the father's idols, there are so many people that are about to celebrate these so-called holidays, and if you ask them 2 questions about it, they don't understand any of it. And what's amazing? We were once just like them. We did the same thing. If somebody asked us, well, what's December 5th, 25th? Jesus' birthday. It's birthday of Jesus. We get right in the New Testament. Luke 1 and I think verse 26. Start counting down, and in the 6th month the angel Gabriel came. You count that down. We know it takes 9 months to have a baby. You count that down, it don't give you nowhere near December. Now that's easy to tell reading one book, the first chapter of Luke. Cut that whole doctrine to pieces. Yet all these educated people acting like they don't know this. See, it's amazing. The mind is a very, very powerful thing when you can decide that you can't see. Now you have eyes, okay? And they're in charge of seeing. But you have a brain that's in charge of everything else. So you can decide that your eyes can't see. And get what? You can't see. Because you have decided that you can't see. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 26. And I polluted them in their own gifts, in that they caused to pass through the fire all that openeth the womb, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am Yahweh. Therefore, Son of man, speak unto the house of Israel, and say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Elohim, Yet in this your fathers have blasphemed me, in that they have committed a trespass against me. For when I had brought them into the land, for the which I lifted up mine hand to give to them, then they saw every high hill and all the thick trees, and they offered their sacrifices, and there they presented the provocation of their offering. There also they made their sweet savor, and poured out their drink offering.
Right. They out choosing trees now. They out choosing their little Christmas tree, so they can put their gifts under the Christmas tree, so you can go and bow down to the tree, so you can get the gift from up under it. So they still bowing down to the trees. They're doing the same thing that our forefathers was doing before. Picking up the gods of the heathen and worshiping those things. Go ahead.
Then I said unto them, What is the high place whereunto you go? And the name thereof is called Bema unto this day. Wherefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus said the Adonai Elohim, Are you polluted after the manner of your fathers, and commit you whoredom after their abominations? For when you offer your gifts, when you make your sons to pass through the fire, you pollute yourselves with all your idols, even unto this day. And shall I be inquired of by you, O house of Israel?
Right. This is why you have to be careful with all of them people. Now, look, this is, remember the beginning of this. This is the elders of Israel coming to inquire of Yahweh. Yahweh say, look at how you live your life. Shall I be inquired of by you? You ain't got no right to ask me nothing. Then you got them people who they finna keep their Christmas. They finna do all their things. But as soon as something happen to them, they gonna come to you. Pray for me that I do such and such. No, you need to pray to the God of Christmas. Ask him to deliver you. Now, if you get a flat tire, call me. I'll help you change the tire. Your house catch on fire, I get a water hose, help you put it out. But when we talk about praying, this is where we going to draw a line right here. You going to pray to your God, and I'm going to pray to mine. Don't ask me to do nothing on the side with your God, and I'm not going to ask you to do nothing with mine. All right? So, because I know what's going to happen. If I pray for you, and the Elohim of Israel heal you, the first thing they're going to say is, thank you, Jesus. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to put my God in that predicament. Go ahead.
As I live, saith the Adonai Elohim, I will not be inquired of by you. And that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all, that you say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone. As I live, saith the Adonai Elohim, surely with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out, will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein you are scattered, with a mighty hand.
Now, I'm going to bring you out from all the countries. I'm going to bring you. Go ahead.
And with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
The same thing that he did before. I'm going to bring you out into the wilderness of the people. There will I plead with you face to face. Go ahead.
Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Adonai Elohim. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And I will purge out from among you the rebels.
Right. Now, they're going to come out. He's going to bring all the people out. Then he's causing his people to pass under the rod. These are the people that accept what they're supposed to do. Then, and I will purge out from among you the rebels. See, the rebels are going to separate themselves. They're separating themselves according to what it is they think, feel, and believe. See, there's a whole lot of people that scream Yahweh, and they do this, that, and the third. When it comes down to passing under that rod, to allow Yahweh to have his righteous judgment, this is what's going to divide the people. Go ahead.
And them that transgress against me, I'll bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am Yahweh.
Right. So some of them think they slick. They ain't going to go through the wilderness. They just going to leave the country where they at and go right into the land of Israel. They said, look, I ain't going into the wilderness. I'm going to go right into the land. Right. Then they turn around and be in the land at the wrong time and get killed off there. One way or another, he going to purge out the rebels. So you can go ahead and be slick if you want to. You're going to miss the wilderness. The wilderness is where he refines the children of Israel. So you skip that sanctification part, you got a serious problem. Now everybody, think about what he said. Invite all of them to this great marriage supper of the Lamb. Then he walks and sees somebody in there. Hey man, how you get in here without having a wedding garment? Go ahead and skip that wilderness and go right into the land. Go ahead, you smart. Go ahead. And when he get there, hey, how you get in here not having a wedding garment? Oh, I had a passport, so I came right in. Right. Cast him out. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Go ahead.
Verse 39. As for you, O house of Israel, thus said the Adonai Elohim, go you, serve you every one his idols, and hereafter also, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols. For in my holy mountain, in the mountain of the height of Israel, saith the Adonai Elohim, there shall all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, serve me. There will I accept them, and there will I require your offerings and the first fruits of your oblations with all your holy things.
So understand, it's an order. You have these offerings being reinstituted. Then you have all of those things where it's complete righteousness in the land, and there's no killing and no need for sacrifice. So don't get those things twisted. There's an order in how those things come about. The complete peace in the land is that, because understand, there's a sabbatical kingdom. Then you have the period where the adversary is released for a time. Then you have complete things that are set up. The adversary is not completely finished. He's got to serve his time in prison. He got to do his time first. He gonna do his time. There's gonna be people dying in the kingdom. They're gonna have. It says a child shall be a person that dies 100 shall be considered a child. You had to ask yourself, well, why he gonna die? Period in the kingdom. If longevity is of the times, he should live 1,000 years. I mean, he made a decision. He can't blame it on the devil. He gonna be able to look at him. Wait a minute, ain't that him right there? Yeah. So who made you sin? Oh, right. That was a decision you made. Go ahead.
Verse 41. I will accept you with your sweet savor when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered. I will be sanctified in you before the heathen.
Right. This is going to make the nations understand how great Yahweh's power is. When he takes the people that people have said, they've given us proverbs and byword names in every country wherein we've lived. If you go anywhere, it don't matter. You visit somewhere, you stay there long enough, you gonna hear the slang byword for you. Be there long enough, and you gonna hear they got a proverb and a byword for you in everywhere you go. But when Yahweh does this and make this people who the whole earth have had indignation with, and when he puts his glory on those people, they're gonna definitely glorify Yahweh. It's, wow. This is definitely Yahweh. Who else could have done this? Go ahead.
And you shall know that I am Yahweh when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for the which I lifted up mine hand to give it to your fathers. And there shall you remember your ways and all your doings, wherein you have been defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for all your evils that you have committed.
You shall hate yourselves in your own sight for all the evils that you have committed. See, all of those doings shall be brought forth back to your remembrance of your former deeds, so that you will understand not to make those same mistakes again. Go ahead.
And you shall know that I am Yahweh when I have wrought with you for my name's sake, not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings, O you house of Israel, saith the Adonai Elohim.
All right, let's go to Numbers 16. Let's get some details on this. Numbers 16, and let's start that at verse 1.
Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men. And they rose up before Moshe with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. And they gathered themselves together against Moshe and against Aaron, and said unto them, You take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and Yahweh is among them. Wherefore then lift you up yourselves above the congregation of Yahweh.
Right. So now they've gotten weary in the process. So now being weary in the process, now they want to change the whole direction. See, now they want somebody else to lead them. What happens is, in that weariness in the process, all of a sudden, the ability of the mind to create that false euphoric feeling goes to work. Now all of a sudden, Egypt looked good again. Now they want to raise up somebody else. Let's raise up a general to send us back to Egypt. Wait a minute now. You mean the same place where you was slave? You mean the same place where you had to work with rigor? You mean the same place where they treated you any old kind of way? You mean the same place where your kids were killed when you multiplied too much? You mean that place? Yeah, let's raise us up a general to send us back. Oh, so the mind has created a false euphoric feeling for you, and now all of a sudden, you really don't remember the hell that was in Egypt. You remember that in a good way, because the present situation is not up to what you think it ought to be. Right. Watch Israel. Same thing happened then, it's going to happen again. Read.
Verse 4. And when Moshe heard it, he fell upon his face. And he spake unto Korah and unto all his company, saying, even tomorrow, Yahweh will show who are his, and who is holy.
Consider something. He got 200 plus people doing this. What would make those people join on to that rebellion? See, everybody believed that they're ready to come from Egypt and go to the promised land. We don't understand there's some things that have to come out of us along the way. So when they came out of Egypt and they didn't immediately go in the promised land, now they blaming this brother. Now it's this brother's fault. Now such and such. Now they got a problem. Now they figure things would get better if we had a different leader. Now they question him what Yahweh has done. And look at how Yahweh sees it as disrespect. So now all of a sudden it was all a mistake, everything, because things ain't going the way you want in the time manner that you want. So now everything was a mistake. Okay, go ahead.
And will cause him to come near unto him. Even him whom he hath chosen will he cause to come near unto him. This do. Take you censers, Korah and all his company, and put fire therein, and put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom Yahweh does choose, he shall be holy. You take too much upon you, you sons of Levi.
Right. He says, okay, you got a problem. Let's see who Yahweh chose then. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto Korah, Hear, I pray you, you sons of Levi, seemeth it but a small thing unto you that the Elohim of Israel hath separated you from the congregation of Israel, to bring you near to himself to do the service of the tabernacle of Yahweh, and to stand before the congregation to minister unto them? And he has brought you near to him, and all your brethren the sons of Levi with you. And seek you the priesthood also?
Mm-hmm. They want to do something else. Go ahead.
For which cause both you and all your company are gathered together against Yahweh. And what is Aaron that you murmur against him? And Moshe sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, which said, We will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land that floweth with milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness, except you make yourself altogether a prince over us?
Now, you got to slow down this verse. You got to slow down this, because you'll go so fast you'll miss something. All right. Is it a small thing that you has brought? Now, he did it. Yahweh didn't do it. He did it. Show you how people, because it's too hard to fight with Yahweh. See? You made our life difficult. You did this. Watch how Israel turn on you. That you have brought us up out of a land that flows with milk and honey. Hello? Yahweh said he was going to bring them to the land of milk and honey. Mm-hmm. They said you took us out of the land of milk and honey. You didn't see that little twist there, did you? Mm-hmm. You didn't see that little twist there, did you? Right. That's how Israel turn on you when things don't go their way. Get ready. It's going to happen to you too. Get ready. It's going to happen to you. The very people you trying to save, them the people that's going to turn on you. Wait. See, everybody want to, see, if you let compassion drive you, you're going to get yourself killed. You watch somebody and they drowning in the water, I'm going to jump in and save them. You better get your mind right. Because let me tell you something, when you're trying to save somebody, all they do is beat and scratch and kick, and they pulling you down, and get what happened? At the end of the day, they dragging two people out of that water instead of one. You have to learn when you saving somebody, you got to come from behind. Because if you come straight up on them, they pull you down into the water, and two people drown. You got to grab that person from behind, otherwise they kicking and they try. Because all they worried about is self-preservation. See, when panic set in, all that, this is how the devil got his intent done in the garden. See, he needed everybody to think about themselves. Look, think about you. Don't think about all that what Yahweh told. Think about you. Think about yourself. Go ahead and eat from that tree. See, think about you. Don't think about nothing else. Think about you. You're the most important thing in it. Think about yourself. Right. When somebody's drowning, all they thinking about is them. And they don't care what. It's not a thought. They're not thinking about it. It's panic. And many a times, people think somebody else was harsh. There was somebody that drowned a couple miles from my house in a little place in a little lake, and they shut that lake down. They called the ambulance, and the ambulance got there, and the guy said, I can't go in. I have to go in with another person. You know, I didn't have another person with me, and they waiting on the other person, and the people got upset, and they said, man, so somebody else there in their emotions. And they said, man, the guy drowning. You got to do something. He said, I got to wait till the next person. I can't go in there. So his emotion told him to jump in the water. Right. Guess what happened? They pulled 2 dead people out of that water. He jumped in there. The person jumped on him when he got ready to save him, and both of them drowned. Right. You got to learn when to take your emotions and open up the cabinet and put them right next to the salt, pepper, and the paprika. And put it right there. Close that door. Read.
You know, bro, even in this situation here, you've oftentimes said, you know, for us to pay attention because we don't know where we're going to end up. Not only do we not know where we're going to end up, in this situation, you see it's 200 people against 1.
Right.
And in most of these situations, when you come to Yahweh's chosen men, it's usually them by themselves against a whole multitude.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of preparation to do because we might be that one standing against hundreds.
Right. 250. So when you got 250 people screaming at you, telling you, God name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Well, maybe his name is. No, no, You better practice now. They got 10,000 people in one congregation. What you gonna do if all them Creflo wives come over here and stand in the parking lot? Right. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 16 and verse 14. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land that floweth with milk and honey, or given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up.
You see that? So they automatically say you have not brought us into a land that flows with milk and honey. So you took us out of a land that flows with milk and honey. All of a sudden, now, because they are unhappy with Yahweh's process, that now they want to go back into the former bondage that they was in. Go ahead.
And Moshe was very angry, and said unto Yahweh, Respect not you their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Moshe said unto Korah, Be you in all your company before Yahweh, you and they and Aaron tomorrow. And take every man his censer, and put incense in them, and bring you before Yahweh every man his censer, 250 censers, you also and Aaron, each of you his censer. And they took every man his censer, and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood in the door of the tabernacle of the congregation with Moshe and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them onto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the glory of Yahweh appeared unto all the congregation.
Now, you have to consider something. They are coming against Yahweh, and you are able to see the Spirit show up in a cloud. And they still came against the person who Yahweh chose to lead them. Which thing they gonna do to you? I mean, it can't be that difficult that you see, hey, bro, the cloud moving. Let's go. Hey, we got to follow the cloud. How difficult is that? Now imagine when you don't see a cloud. Now you got much infight. Where y'all going? The Spirit is leading us this way. I don't see no cloud. I don't see no pillar of fire. You see some fire? You see some fire? I don't see no fire. Right.
Verse 20. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and unto Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I might consume them in a moment. And they fell upon their faces and said, O Elohim, the Elohim of spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will you be angry with all the congregation? And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying,
Now, will one man sin and you be angry with the whole congregation? Well, remember this little part that's written. It says, do you see all the abominations that be done here? Go through and mark every man that sigh and cry for the abominations that be done here, and set a mark on him. Then start killing at my sanctuary, but avoid all the men that have the mark. Well, who those people? Those the people who didn't like what was going on, and they didn't take that neutral stand. So you got all them people that I'm neutral. I ain't nothing to do with nothing. I am not in this mess. I am not. What is that? So you don't go left, you don't go right. I'm just right. Okay, right. Go ahead.
Verse 24. Speak unto the congregation, saying, Get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram.
Right. You better make a decision. Separate yourself or die with them. Go ahead.
And Moshe rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. So they gat up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives, and their sons, and their little children. And Moshe said, Hereby you shall know that Yahweh hath sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of mine own mind.
Right. And see, that's what happened. What people end up thinking when things don't go according to the way they thought they were going to go in their own minds. So they say, you made this decision. He said, all right, I'm going to show you that Yahweh did this. Go ahead.
If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then Yahweh had not sent me. But if Yahweh make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertaineth unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then you shall understand that these men have provoked Yahweh.
Right. And to people, I mean, just reading this, you'd be like, man, this is some wild stuff here, man. I mean, ain't no ground opening up and eating no people. They did a story on Louisiana. Louisiana is losing something like 2 football fields a day in land. It's something like some ungodly amount of just how the water is just coming in and the ground is just disappearing. They have videos where you just see a tree and the tree just start going down and the ground just open it up and take it. Then they had cases in Florida where they just out of nowhere the sinkhole or something just open up, suck the house in. They never even found one of the people that was in the house, and they said it was too dangerous to get near it because they couldn't find out how deep the hole was. They went near the hole and said, hey man, it don't seem like no ending to it. We not going over there. So they just like, hey, just set something around it, man, and we not going over there because we can't get nobody out. Well, they worried about it, they gonna fall into it because they can't figure out, hey, we dropped something in the hole, and y'all done seen the movies where they drop something in the hole and you waiting, and you waiting. Okay, when he hit the ground, wait a minute, he's still high. Wait a minute, he's still high. You come back a week later. Hey man, what it do? I ain't going near that hole, man. I'm not going. You can't pay me to go near that hole. That dude ain't even hit the bottom yet. We don't want to sleep. We're on vacation. Came back. No, you won't catch me near that hole. Done deal. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 16 and verse 31. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up. and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up also.
What I tell y'all? Practice your wilderness two-step. Practice your wilderness two-step. When you start hearing that mess, wait a minute, that don't sound like it. To the left, get to stepping. Go ahead.
And there came out a fire from Yahweh, and consumed the 250 men that offered incense. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest, that he take up the censers out of the burning, and scatter you the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. The censers of these sinners against their own souls, let them make them broad plates for a covering of the altar, for they offered them before Yahweh. Therefore they are hallowed, and they shall be a sign unto the children of Israel.
Right, so these coverings, these broad plates for a covering of the altar are signs of other people's disobedience. Are signs that you need to follow what Yahweh has given unto you and not come unto your own mind and decide you're going to do something else. That's what these things are. That's what they are for. Since they offered them up to Yahweh, they hollowed, but it was in their death. Go ahead.
And Eleazar the priest took the brazen censers wherewith they that were burnt had offered, and they were made broad plates for a covering of the altar, to be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger, which is not of the seed of Aaron, come near to offer incense before Yahweh.
Right. And this is not just stranger. See, a lot of people look at this, no stranger, no people out of Israel. No people out of the people who were called. If this is of the Levites and of a certain family of the Levites, a different family of the Levites can't go near it either. What were you called to do that? What do you call yourself? You gonna get burnt up. And what happened is, some people are getting burnt up right now. It's just a slow fire, so they don't get it. But you watch, and Yahweh is tearing up their doctrine and everything that they got, little by little. Right. Go ahead.
That he be not as Korah, and as his company, as Yahweh said to him by the hand of Moshe. But on the morrow all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moshe and against Aaron.
Here's where it get interesting. So now Yahweh done dealt with all the rebels. Now here come Israel. Now Israel got a problem. Go ahead.
Saying, You have killed the people of Yahweh.
You killed the people. So I made the ground open up. So now I'm a magician. So I myself made the ground open up. I caused them to make an offering, to burn incense, and to go. We got rules here that says who was supposed to do what. They understood the rules. They said, hey, we don't like the current situation. It ain't moving fast enough. We want this to move expeditiously. So we're going to set us up some other leader. I'm sure he can get this done in a quicker manner. Right. Now, they blame him for their murder. So, Yahweh didn't do it. I did it. Now it's my fault. Go ahead.
Verse 42. And it came to pass, when the congregation was gathered against Moshe and against Aaron, that they looked toward the tabernacle of the congregation, and behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of Yahweh appeared.
Now, how many times you got to come against this man, and then the cloud come, and then now you realize, we probably done did something stupid. How is it you didn't figure that out the last 8 times that you did something stupid, and the cloud showed up? I'm not dealing with no dude that the cloud come when he start praying. I'm not arguing with no dude who holds up the staff and the water stop. We win the battle every time the dude got the staff, and that dude ain't got no problems. How you argue with this cat? This cat spent so much time with Yahweh, he started glowing. Me and the glowing ain't got no problem. I'm not arguing with the glowing cat. What's the problem? Right. Self-will makes you turn a blind eye to everything else that's going around you, that you don't see nobody but you. Go ahead.
Verse 43. And Moshe and Aaron came before the tabernacle of the congregation. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Get you up from among this congregation, that I might consume them as in a moment. And they fell upon their faces. And Moshe said unto Aaron, Take a censer, and put fire therein from off the altar, and put on incense, and go quickly unto the congregation, and make an atonement for them. For this is the wrath gone out from Yahweh. The plague is begun.
The plague has begun. Now somebody got to make atonement for this plague. Go ahead.
And Aaron took as Moshe commanded, and ran into the midst of the congregation. And behold, the plague was begun among the people. And he put on incense, and made an atonement for the people.
Right. They done set the plague by setting forth unauthorized incense. Now he's got to stop the plague by doing authorized things. Yeah, Yahweh funny like that. Go ahead.
And he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stayed.
Now, he stood in between the dead and the living, did things the way it was supposed to be done. Consider this, Israel. Now, there's a plague and all these people are dying, but how many people stood neutral as all of it was going on? See, there's a whole lot of people stand neutral, you know, as things are happening and swear they ain't got nothing to do with it. Right. How many of these people you think died here was neutral? You didn't read about anybody saying anything when Korah. He is the one that has to deal with Korah and it's 250. Now, all these people done died when this plague come in. They didn't do it. They wasn't the ones that came up. Right. But they said, same thing you have today. People just sit back. I ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Right. But once that plague come into their house, now they hollering, poor pitiful me. Oh, woe is me. Why this happened to me? Right. Where were you when all this went down? What position were you in? Oh, I was neutral. Right. That's why the plague in your house. Go ahead.
Now they that died in the plague were 14,700.
Now, them people didn't do nothing when it came down to Korah. So you go ahead and decide that you're going to be neutral. Go ahead with your neutrality. See if it help you. A lot of them neutral people dead. Go ahead.
Beside them that died about the matter of Korah.
Right.
And Aaron returned unto Moshe unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the plague was stayed.
Right. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 26. Yeah, we got a whole lot of people that said, well, I'm just going to be, I'm neutral. I remember some of the darndest things happened after my elder died, and there was a whole lot of neutral people in the room. Right. The plague in their house right now. They suffering slow. Having to take part in dead doctrine that's just dying more and more day by day. They're just going through the motions, showing up just so they can leave. Right. Went to Elohim, it was night. They saying that in the morning. Right. I wish the day was over. Right. Right. That's that neutrality. Right. When it was time for you to make a stand, you were quiet. 2 Chronicles chapter 26, and let's start that at verse 1.
Then all the people of Judea took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in the room of his father Amaziah. He built Eloth and restored it to Yehudah. After that the king slept with his fathers. 16 years old was Uzziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Yachaliah of Jerusalem.
This is one of the longest reigns in the kingdom of Israel for somebody to be in charge that long. Go ahead.
And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his father Amaziah did. And he sought Elohim in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of Elohim, and as long as he sought Yahweh, Elohim made him to prosper.
Right. And that's what happens. You can't get weary in well-doing. As long as he saw Elohim, Elohim took care of him. You take care of Yahweh's business, Yahweh take care of yours. But what happened is, sometimes we want to pause on Yahweh's business, so we're going to take care of ours. Right. And your business going to get worse and worse and worse. And you know what's crazy? You're going to spend more time on your business. More time on, 1 minute, you're putting 2 hours toward your business. Next minute, you got 4 hours toward your business. Next minute, you got 8 hours towards your business. And it ain't getting no better. Right. And you still can't figure out what's going on. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he went forth and warred against the Philistines, and brake down the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jabneth, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities about Ashdod and among the Philistines. And Elohim held him against the Philistines, and against the Arabians that dwelt in Gerbal, and the Mehunims. And the Ammonites gave gifts to Uzziah, and his name spread abroad even to the entering in of Egypt, for he strengthened himself exceedingly. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the valley gate, and at the turning of the wall, and fortified them. Also he built towers in the desert, and digged many wells, for he had much cattle, both in the low country and in the plains, husbandmen also, and vine dressers in the mountains, and in Carmel, for he loved husbandry. Moreover, Uzziah had an host of fighting men, that went out to war by bands, according to the number of their account, by the hand of Yael, the scribe, and Messiah, the ruler, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains. The whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men of valor were 2,600. And under their hand was an army, 300,000 and 7,500, that made war with mighty power to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host shields, and spears, and helmets, and habergeons, and bows, and slings to cast stones. And he made in Jerusalem engines, invented by cunning men, to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks, to shoot arrows and great stones withal. And his name spread far abroad, for he was marvelously helped till he was strong.
And Yahweh is behind all of this great thing. Everything is going wonderful until. Go ahead.
But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction, for he transgressed against Yahweh his Elohim, and went into the temple of Yahweh to burn incense upon the altar of incense.
Now he want to burn incense. I'm a great man. I've done all of these things. I have done wonderful works in Israel. Let me burn some incense. Go ahead.
And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of Yahweh that were valiant men.
Now, do you have the wherewithal to stand? Now, this is a mighty man who has done all of these things, started at a young age, have been ruling for quite some time now. Now, he has intruded into the priesthood. Do you have what it takes to go in and say, hey, bro, hey, you're a king, but you're not a priest. You can't do this. Do you have what it takes? Or are you going to be one of them neutral people? Right. Go ahead.
2 Chronicles chapter 26 and verse 18. And they withstood Uzziah the king.
They withstood Uzziah the king. Now this man over them. Go ahead.
And said unto him, It appertaineth not unto you, Uzziah, to burn incense unto Yahweh, but to the priests the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have trespassed, neither shall it be for your honor from Yahweh Elohim. Then Uzziah was angry, and had a censer in his hand to burn incense.
To burn. Go ahead.
And while he was angry with the priests, the leprosy even rose upon his forehead before the priests in the house of Yahweh from beside the incense altar.
So, it don't even look like he got to do it. He just had bad intentions. Then he got mad at the people who told him what the order was. No, it's not for you to do so. So he get angry, and here come the leprosy. Go ahead.
And Azariah the chief priest and all the priests looked upon him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead. And they thrust him out from thence. Yea, himself hasted also to go out because Yahweh had smitten him.
See, now he'll go out. Now, see, he ready to fight him. No, I want to burn incense. Then he realized this leprosy done started. Now I better get out of here now. You don't think you should have left out before the leprosy started? Go ahead.
And Uzziah the king was a leper unto the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house, being a leper, for he was cut off from the house of Yahweh. And Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, first and last, did Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, write. So Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the field of the burial which belonged to the kings. For they said, he is a leper, and Jotham his son reigned in his stead.
Right. So we see that Yahweh has called things and have set things in a certain order. And no matter how much you feel you might be weary along the way, or how much great honor you have attained along the way, you don't get to change those roles. There's a separation between kings and priests. See, King David talked about, and he set forth the example of the merging of those two offices, but that's Yahshua's job, to be king and priest. We don't get to do that. You gonna be one, or you gonna be the other. You in the royal house, or you in the priesthood. If you in both, Yahshua set forth that, Yahweh set forth that. You don't get to be in both of those. Let's go 1 Corinthians chapter 10. First Corinthians chapter 10, and let's start that at verse 1.
Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moshe in the cloud and in the sea.
Right, and people don't understand that as they walked through this wall of water, though they walked over dry shod, this was being covered, completely covered in water. This was their baptism. Although they did not understand that at the time, that this baptism was happening even under this old covenant of things. Go ahead.
And did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was the Mashiach. But with many of them Elohim was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our example, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. Neither be you idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell one day 23,000. Neither let us tempt the Mashiach, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed of serpents. Neither murmur you, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed of the destroyer.
Right. Neither murmur you. Some were destroyed just for complaining. For Yahweh has done a great miracle in putting forth certain things, and then because we may not like certain aspects of it or how it goes down, now we murmur, and now Yahweh is against you because of your yapping. And do understand, Yahweh can hear the murmuring that comes from your heart. Don't think he don't hear that murmuring because you ain't do it out loud. Remember Sarah? And the angel said, why you laugh? But I didn't laugh. He said, but you did laugh. She was like, but I ain't do it out loud. Man, you can't fool them angels for nothing. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 11. Now all these things happened unto them for ensamples, that they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. There hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. But Elohim is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it.
Right, that you may be able to bear it, if you decide to. Because you can decide that you just don't, hey, I ain't strong enough to go through this. So I just decide that I'm not going to bear it. You still got free will. You got free will to go jump right in the lake of fire if you want to. You out the way. You know what? I decide that this is what I'm going to do. You can make that decision at any given point. But if you want to, he has offered a way for you to be able to make it through whatever it is. You still got to make a decision. Let's go to Acts chapter 19. That decision is still upon you. At any decision. Anytime you want to make that decision, you go right ahead. Go ahead.
No, even with that, you know, he's telling you point blank, I'm not going to give you a temptation beyond what you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
I know your limitations.
Right.
I will not tempt you beyond your limitations.
But what happens is when we get off into ourselves, we begin to question the work of Elohim. That's what that murmuring is. We're going to question the path of Elohim. See? We question how he does what he does. Well, could he have done this a different way? Oh, okay. Now, his great glorious work ain't great and glorious no more. How you think he gonna feel about that? Acts chapter 19, let's start that at verse 1.
And it came to pass that while Apollos was at Corinth, Saul, having passed through the upper coast, came to Ephesus, and finding certain disciples, he said unto them, Have you received the Holy Ghost since you believe? And they said unto him, We have not so much as heard whether there be any Holy Ghost. And he said unto them, Unto what then were you baptized? And they said, Unto Johannan's baptism. Then said Saul, Johanan verily baptized with the baptism of repentance, saying unto the people that they should believe on him which should come after him, that is, on the Mashiach Yahshua.
Mm-hmm.
When they heard this, they were baptized in the name of the Adonai Yahshua.
Right. And for some reason, you still have brothers teaching that baptism is not valid. We already talked about the baptism of Yohanan. It was done in water. Then they were baptized in the name of Yahshua. Of course, this is done in water as well. So this strange doctrine that is being taught, it makes no sense whatsoever. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And when Saul had laid his hands upon them, the Holy Ghost came on them, and they spake with tongues and prophesied. And all the men were about 12. And he went into the synagogue and spake boldly for the space of 3 months, disputing and persuading the things concerning the kingdom of Elohim.
Jump to verse 11.
And Elohim wrought special miracles by the hands of Saul, so that from his body were brought out unto the sick handkerchiefs or aprons, and the diseases departed from them, and the evil spirits went out of them. Then certain of the vagabond Yehudis, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits in the name of the Adonai Yahshua, saying, We adjure you by Yahshua whom Saul preacheth.
Right. Now, you have vagabond Yehudim who they're going to do it. They don't have the authority to do it. They don't have the calling to do it. But see, they say, we natural Israel. That's that whole crap that you got floating around. Oh, this country is this tribe, and these people are that tribe, and these people are this tribe. Hey, they don't care what tribe they from. They vagabond. Who gave you authority to do? First of all, who baptized you, and in what name were you baptized? Vagabond. If you can't answer that question, and you out teaching, vagabond. Who baptized you? What name were you baptized in? Vagabond. Who gave you authority to do anything? Right. Now, nobody cares nothing about what natural tribe you are in. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Yehudi, and chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Yahshua I know, and Saul I know, but who are you?
Right. You ain't entered into this family. What baptism you got? Who baptized you? Who you? Why I don't know you? The evil spirit said, wait a minute now, I know things. And I know Saul. And I know Yahshua. But nobody know you. You ain't even been born yet. That's why don't nobody know you. You a baby fetus. You still in the womb. You ain't even been spiritually born yet. Who are you? Why don't I know you? Right. Go ahead.
And the man in whom the evil spirit was leapt on them, and overcame them, and prevailed against them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. And this was known to all the Yehudis and Greeks also dwelling at Ephesus. And fear fell on them all, and the name of the Adonai Yahshua was magnified. And many that believed came and confessed and showed their deeds. Many of them also which used curious arts brought their books together and burnt them before all men. And they counted the price of them, and found it 50,000 pieces of silver.
All right, jump to verse 23.
And the same time there arose no small stir about that way. For a certain man, named Demetrius, a silversmith, which made silver shrines for Diana, brought no small gain unto the craftsmen, whom he called together with the workmen of like occupation, and said, Sirs, you know that by this craft we have made our wealth.
Right, we make money making idols. Go ahead.
Moreover, you see and hear that not only at Ephesus, but also throughout all Asia, this Saul hath persuaded and turned away much people, saying that they be no gods, which are made with hands.
So he is there messing with their money. They get paid by making idols, and now he is teaching a doctrine that said, if you can make it with hands, it's not a god. Go ahead.
So that not only is our craft our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also that the temple of the great goddess Diana should be despised, and her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worshipeth. And when they heard these things, they were full of anger, and cried out, saying, Great is Diana of the Ephesians.
Right. It ain't no different. The same thing happened today. Here it is. I'll do a sermon, and we talk about what the fringes are supposed to be like. The people who make them lampshade shirts cannot be happy with me. Because they say, man, how we going to make our money now? We're trying to sell these lampshade shirts, and Sock Israel is causing us some problems. I'm going to show you that this is some things that we ended up having made, 8-9 years ago. You see how the fringe is covered in blue, and what it says in the writing for how it's supposed to be made. Then we read how it's supposed to be on the 4 quarters in Deuteronomy 22. If you look up at a shirt, basically if you got a round shirt on, it's supposed to be a cut in the side of that shirt so that there is a fringe on all 4 corners of that shirt if you are going to wear fringes. Let's go to Exodus chapter 28. I want to read something to you so I can show you something. Now y'all remember reading that, right? Deuteronomy 22 and 12, the 4 quarters. We did looked it up in Hebrew, quarters, corners. All right? The 4 corners were where those were supposed to be. But see, you got people who in charge of camps and they own businesses. They themselves don't work on the Sabbath, but they got their businesses open on the Sabbath. Ain't nobody supposed to be working for you on the Sabbath. Exodus chapter 28, and let's start this at verse 31.
And you shall make the robe of the ephod all of blue.
Remember all the pastors had on blue robes? Y'all don't remember that? Y'all don't remember all the robes? Remember that pastor didn't have the little fancy Italian suit. He had on the robe. Remember the robe was blue, right? Okay, Kiri.
And there shall be an hole in the top of it, in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the hole of a habergeon, that it be not rent. And beneath upon the hem of it,
beneath upon the hem of it. All right, so now we're talking about the bottom, right? Go ahead.
You shall make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the hem thereof.
Okay, beneath upon the hem, you shall make pomegranates. So you got blue, purple, and scarlet pomegranates. Go ahead.
And bells of gold between them round about.
So, bells in between. Go ahead.
A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and this sound shall be heard when he goeth onto the holy place before Yahweh, and when he cometh out, that he die not.
Now, picture this. It said the fringes on the 4 quarters, which are the 4 corners. Now, what it says for the high priest, understand who Aaron is. Now, he said make 3 different types of pomegranates. You got the blue, purple, and scarlet. So you got a pomegranate, a bell. A pomegranate, a bell. A pomegranate, a bell. All around the hem. That's all around, so that when he moves in the holy place, you hear him move. Now, think about the brothers that showed up in the lampshade shirts. Did they not have theirs all the way around? And not in the 4 quarters like it says a fringe. So they have mixed the fringe with what's supposed to happen for the high priest. Right. That's what happens when you worship the adversary of the devil. You can't figure out if you're going left, right, up, down. Right. You let Stephen Wonder lead you. You can't argue to Yahweh. We had a wreck. You let the blind dude drive. I can't cover that, man. I can't cover that. That was just stupid on your behalf. You know he couldn't see. Why you let him drive? So that you understand when somebody come around with these things all around the bottom of their shirt, that you understand that they are mixing the difference between the high priest. So now they the high priest. They not just a priest, they the high priest. If they got them all around the bottom of their shirt. Oh. You either Aaron or Yahshua. One or the other. Yeah. Right. Like I said, they're not going to be happy with me. Now, how we going to say a lampshade shirts now? Now, how we going to say that, man? Sucky real always messing up stuff. Right. Better find a better way to make them lampshade shirts or do something. Do it according, if people were reading, they wouldn't have bought the lampshade shirt in the first place. And some of them got images on them. Somebody who's supposed to be Christ. Hey, who that dude? Who the dude on the shirt? You got, now Yahweh said don't make no idols. So you got a lampshade shirt on that's supposed to represent keeping the law. Then you got an image on the shirt which breaks the law. Huh? Right. Let's go to Romans chapter 9.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 1. I say the truth in Mashiach, I lie not, my conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from the Mashiach for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, the Mashiach came, who is over all, Elohim blessed forever. Amen.
People want to ignore this because they don't want to deal with the fact that the Messiah is an Israelite. It is absolutely amazing when they keep telling you all of this stuff about, Jesus. Hold on. It is clearly stated in the New Testament that he was an Israelite. How do you then have somebody asking you, well, what's a Hebrew Israelite? You do not understand what the Messiah was? You do not understand who Saul was? The greatest contributor to this New Testament writings. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Not as though the word of Elohim hath taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel.
Right. And that is the whole kit and caboodle right there. They are not all Israel, which are of Israel. So I don't care nothing about your little tribe chart. First of all, if you have not done the things that you're supposed to do, you're not Israel. You just got a fleshly representation of a body of Israel, but you're not Israel in spirit. Let's go to back up to Romans chapter 2. So you got a whole lot of people claiming Israel, and they're ready to do DNA testing. They're ready to do all this kind of stuff. Right. But they refuse to walk in the Spirit. Romans chapter 2, and let's read verses 28 through 29.
For he is not a Yehudi, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a Yehudi, which is one inwardly.
Which is one inwardly,
and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter.
Not in the letter of the law, in the spirit of the law. And how were you a part of this adoption? Remember Romans 9 verse 4. How were you a part of this adoption where you are able to then cry, Abba, Father? For now you have been born again. Remember, what did the Mashiach say? Unless you be born again, you shall not enter into this kingdom. That is the power of what the baptism is. So now there's another birth beside the birth that you came through with your mother and your father, dealing with that natural birth. Now there's another birth in which you are Israel in the spirit. That's why it is written, all of Israel shall be saved. But do understand, they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. That's all we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.